Come on.
Video games in general are an outlet as well as a kind of escape from reality, but that's just technically like a book except more high-tech.
Video games are fascinating. Their effect on us culturally is fascinating, and it's the creation of a new art form, new entertainment form combined. But one thing that they do that all art forms and entertainment forms have done over the years is they give you a little microcosm in which to play out some of life's everyday circumstances in high speed with very clear results, very clear consequences, something that we've delighted in since the beginning of sports, since the beginning of all games.
I think they're pretty awesome. I think they're a great way to pass the time. They're so much better than watching TV or going on the internet, since you can put pause and then go do other things rather than on TV.
My problem with the way that video games are debated is that they're debated as a black and white issue. Are they good? Are they bad? Do they have positive or negative effects? Obviously they have both. Anytime you do one thing, you're not doing something else instead. And there are certain things that might be better for us to do with a certain portion of our time that we instead spend on video games. Are they better than other things? Yes.
If you have like an adult playing a game, it's alright, but if you have a little kid, then they could get, you know, bad ideas and bad role models from the characters and the scenarios.
ESRB ratings are completely fair in my opinion. You know, violence is teen, lots of blood and swearing and nudity is M. It's like, you know, 17-year-olds, just like going into a movie theater, same type of standards, I guess, and they're pretty well thought out.
I respect the challenge that ESRB deals with in trying to come up with the ratings, and that's precisely because of this problem I was just addressing, which is that the appropriate rating depends, it really, from person to person, it varies. Some people are very triggerable to real-world violence. They're right on the edge. Very few people, in fact. But you have to factor them in to some extent, or at least the law is bound to, because those are the people we end up hearing about who, after playing some video games, ended up doing something that was more violent, something like that.
I respect the ratings, but as for rating-wise, I think some games should be rated higher than most.
You know, in reality, it's just, you can do just as much reading a book, or it's just an escape mechanism. Escape from, you know, real life right now.
They could well do more benefit than harm, in my opinion. But if they caused a single case of violence by triggering someone who was violent already to become more violent, you know, then you'd have to answer that question technically. Yes, it can cause some.
I think to some degree it does. I think video games do influence people, but I don't think they influence them enough to actually go out and try the things you see on the game screens.
Video games are a great simulation of aspects of real life, and I admire all games that way, and admire the way that games are more interactive than TV, create for social networking that you wouldn't otherwise have. I think that video games, even though they can be played at home with one person on a computer, I think in general they are a great socializing force. They bring you into interaction with other people in a way that's really good for society.
I think people blame violence on video games because they don't want to blame themselves. They'd rather say, oh, it's the game's fault, let's take the game away, rather than it's my fault as a person for not, you know, controlling myself.
You also have to remember that with the media, they often will say not what's most daring or most true, but what's most resonant with people. People hear this stuff and they'll say right on.
If some kid who goes up and, you know, shoots a lot of people just so happens to play lots of video games, and they're going to blame the video games instead of like their parents or something like that. And it's there's no, I guess you can consider it a logical reason, but it's not a very good one. Well, it's a big question. There's a lot of variety of gamers. You've got your hardcore, sleeps in the parents' basement, you know, not moving for a week gamers, and then you've got the really light casual gamers of two different sides of the spectrum. And in the middle of all of that, you've got your mean gamers and your nice gamers, and then your lonely gamers, and then, you know, your community of gamers. And so, you know, gamers in general are just like normal people. They're just like any other, you know, subculture. You know, they've all got their ups and downs and good guys and bad guys.